I know you've heard time and time again that writing a book can be a great way to grow and build your business. But what goes into writing a book? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain, and Michelle is going to tell us everything you need to know, including the questions you should ask to get the best book published.
Welcome to the Six Figure Business Mastery Podcast, where every week, Kirsten and Jeanne dive into the essential topics to fuel your business growth. From copywriting to course creation, mindset to video marketing, they've got you covered. Tune in for expert guest interviews on all things marketing and business, and learn how to work on your business, not just in it. So, get ready to unlock your business potential and take it to the next level.
Hello and welcome to the podcast. We're so grateful that you chose to spend a little time with us today. And I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Her name is Vandepas. She is an author, a TEDx speaker, and a business coach. She's also co-founder of Grace Point Publishing. They're innovators in collaborative partnership publishing. And so she helps people get their book actually published. So welcome, Michelle. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Michelle, I know when you and I first spoke, one of the things that I really liked was the fact that you're like us. You're all about educating people. Right. And it's not a one size fits all, right? Jeanne and I often will say, like, we're not everyone's cup of tea, right? We're not the right fit for everyone. And I know you felt the same way, that, you know, the right person has to come along and they're publishing a book, and that's really important. And it really needs to be a good fit and a good match. And I love that you like to educate people in order to find that perfect publisher or that perfect situation for getting their book out into the world. So we're excited to learn more about, you know, you and how did you get into publishing? Let's start there. How did you get into publishing?
Well, I published my first book about 25 years ago now. And back then it was called Vanity Publishing, right? And I basically was publishing my book to put out in a book format everything that I told my clients over and over and over again, right? And so I wanted it to be able to give to my clients, also use as a marketing tool. These days it's kind of called business card book. And I learned so much in the process that I started adding book consulting to my marketing consulting packages. And then over the years, that just morphed, and I've helped thousands of authors and groups and privately and coaching and consulting. And I also own a publishing company now and actually can publish for people.
Wow, that's amazing. And there's a lot of different ways to publish, right? There's a lot of different ways to get that book out into the world.
There are so many ways, and people don't realize that they have lots of options. People know about self-publishing and they think that's Amazon. You can publish on Amazon and you can self-publish on Amazon, but you can also self-publish and print 200 books and never go on Amazon. You can self-publish elsewhere besides Amazon. You can publish on Amazon through a publisher, through a hybrid publisher. There's so many different choices out there. And you don't necessarily need to know all the choices, but most of us know what we want to do with our book, right? Do we want to have it available only for our clients? Do we want to have it everywhere, distributed widely? Are we going to use it for a business card? Are we using it to spread our message? And when we tune into that, it helps us choose.
How do you go about helping someone decide what's the best way or what direction they want to go in with their publishing?
Yeah, I'd like to ask a lot of questions. We have some standard things because it's easier if you don't have a million choices, right? All the marketing studies say if you can choose between 3 or 4 things, it's much easier. If you have 100 things to choose from, we all go in overwhelm, right? And so I like to drill it down, but I ask questions first. Do you have an audience? Are you a speaker? Are you looking to build that? Do you like to do things like fiddle around in the back end of Amazon or other distributors and learn how to do the ads and learn how to promote? Or is all that overwhelming? You're like, no way, don't make me do all of that, because that will inform your decision and my questions about which way to go. If you're a do-it-yourselfer kind of person, self-publishing might be the perfect opportunity for you. That does not mean you should forego professional editing, professional book cover, professional advice, because you still want it to look like the best representation of you, your message, and who you are.
Yeah, it's so funny because I don't think we think about all the parts that go into it. Like you said, the editing, the cover. And for me, when you're listing all the things about, do you like going into the backside of Amazon? I'm like, no, 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 that would not be me, right? And
Right.
I feel like, do you feel like it kind of depends on the type of books? In other words, if someone is publishing a book, kind of like the business card book or the vanity book, that's really going to help them with their business. I know a lot of times the idea is to pinch pennies and do it as much as you can yourself, but time is money, right? So then you're spending all of the time you could be out growing your business trying to learn all these new things to get a book published. And so, what's the kind of advice do you give to people who are trying to create that business book versus maybe someone who's trying to create a fictional book? Or do you work with fictional books? I'm not even sure about that.
Great question. I want to go back. So you're not going to actually save money if you self-publish, not if you do it correctly. So there are still some steps that a traditional publisher that would go through, that a very reputable hybrid publisher would go through, that I would take you through as your consultant, including different types of editing, developmental editing, beta readers, copy editing, proofing, like all the things. And you can't really skip one of those steps. And if you do, what will happen is it'll go up, let's just say Amazon as the example, and you'll get a bad review. Wow, this was put up without being proofread. We don't want that, especially if it's representing your company. So a couple of things. If you're looking to publish a book to be a representation of who you are, either your business card book or that you have a message that you're out here to spread. Either way, when you publish that book, you will get clients, and I'm talking nonfiction. You will get clients back. And so for most of us, one or two clients will more than offset the cost of the book. So for a business person, or for a healer, a teacher, someone like that, a coach, anyone who's running a program, it's the money is not necessarily in the book sales, it is the back end getting the client. I have, to answer the second question, yes, I have worked with fiction authors, but I don't focus there. There are other people who are very, very good at coaching fiction authors, and I usually refer those out.
That's awesome.
It's so interesting that you say self-publishing doesn't save you money, because that's what I think, that's the perception, is that if I, like Kirsten said, if I do it all myself, it's going to cost me less money. But you just rattled off 3 editors I have no idea, I've never heard of, 3 types of editors. And so
Right. And so it'll save you money if you skip those steps, but you're going to pay for it in the long run, because you won't be seen as the expert in your field. You won't be seen as credible, as professional, because you won't have a good developmental outline for your book. So taking an example of one kind of editing, which means the chapters skip around. They don't flow. The chapter doesn't flow inside the chapter. There isn't a structure to the chapter. There isn't a structure to the book, right? And so, yes, you might save money, but you're going to pay for it in the back end, because you'll lose a client or get a bad review.
I have a question for you, and I don't know if you'll know, but like we actually wrote a book many moons ago on marketing, and we were using it for business. The problem was that marketing changes, not the foundation of it, but the tactical part. Different platforms evolve, etc. What would your advice be to somebody who is in that type of industry?
I wrote my first book on marketing 25 years ago, and I have tips in there, like go to the copy machine and copy on goldenrod paper and put the flyer up at your library. Like, that's my tip, right? Would that still work today? Probably it would still work today, but it is so like out of date, right? And so my book there's still a few copies floating around, but I just use it as a teaching moment that yes, things change. And so I would recommend updating the book, doing some podcasts, writing another book, right? Absolutely. Take all that expertise, take these podcasts and transcribe them and use them as bones for your next book.
Love it.
It's funny. I think about writing a book or like self-publishing the same way I think about building my own house, right? you can be the actual general contractor and build your own house.
Yeah.
But if you don't know contracting inside and out, if you don't know who to pay the subcontractors, and you don't know how to check their work, and you don't know a lot about the permitting process, there's so many things that go along with that. Can you save money? Probably. I don't use probably because I have a lot of friends who've done this, and in the long run, it doesn't save them money. In some cases, it's cost them money because terrible mistakes have happened, right? And so I think of it the same way. You just don't know what you don't know, right?
And I'm not saying not to self-publish, because there are other reasons to self-publish. Like if you want to buy your book at the bare bones cost because you speak all the time, right? There are other reasons, but don't skip the steps of consulting or working with a publisher to get a good book. And I love this contractor analogy. It's great. And I think there are a lot of people that like to do it for the fun and for the experience, for the challenge and to learn. But if you have never built a house and you become your own contractor, my guess is you're going to really pull on some resources for subcontractors or other people to guide you, so you don't end up with a house falling down, right? And that's how it is, and that's how I like to view it in publishing. Like I can consult with someone to self-publish, but we take them through all our steps, all the developmental editing, all the beta readers, all the advanced reviews, how to get a forward, all of that, even if you're self-publishing.
So you just brought up a good point that people would self-publish to save money on printing the books.
Yeah.
So those people, I guess, are using the books either kind of handing it out, like you said, like a book business card, or
Right.
maybe they're on stage and they're going to sell them at the back of the room, and they'll
Right.
make a little more profit if they have printed them themselves. So that's interesting.
The other reason to often self-publish is you just want freedom, and you don't want anybody else like helping you with ads or Facebook ads or distribution or any of those kinds of things. Like there are people who are just like, no, I want it. It's part of my funnel or it's part of my job, and I'm going to take it and run with it. And it's just a different personality sometimes, and there's no right or wrong. It's just what's right for you.
If someone was going to come to you about publishing a book, or go to anyone for that matter, ideally you, what questions would you encourage them to ask?
Yeah, so the questions that are usually digging a little bit deeper, like who pulls the ISBN, which is not anything. So if you work with us, we may not even decide that till we're way into the publishing experience. We don't have to decide that till last minute, but whoever pulls the ISBN determines who actually publishes. You might ask things like, okay, you're doing an Amazon launch for me. What does that actually include? Is that social media? How many posts? Are you emailing to your list? Do I have to email to my list? So people hear Amazon launch, oh, that's great. But then one person might charge $2,500 for an Amazon launch, and someone else might charge $10,000 for an Amazon launch. And as the buyer and the author, you're in overwhelm and you don't know what you've missed. You don't understand what the difference is. And the difference is going to be the amount of reach, the amount of extra effort, what else goes into that launch, are there podcast interviews, what else happens? And so you just have to ask. And the more you ask, the more you'll educate yourself. And I'm not saying that you have to be an expert as an author. You don't, but you have to know enough to be able to feel comfortable with whomever you choose to help you publish. You have to feel comfortable. You have to feel like you're being guided and you trust that person. And so asking some questions will give you some insight into what it is you're getting, what you're not getting, and how to choose your publisher.
So out of curiosity, on average, what do you think it costs to bring a book to market? So not with marketing itself, but just actually getting it to the place of Amazon or printed books ready to sell. On average, what's the cost of that?
So if you're looking at a 50,000 word book that has not had any editing at all, you're probably looking at 15,000. some people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect that. That's so expensive. And the cost, most of that is in the editing. It could be 10,000, it could be 8,000. Our programs are usually 15,000 because we like to go through very thorough editing. I don't like to put a book out that hasn't been through extra editing and make sure it's a good book. We really pride ourselves on good, beautiful books.
Okay. On average, what do you feel like people should spend to launch their book? I guess it would kind of depend on their goals, but
A great question. It depends on how much reach you already have. Do you have an email list? Is your email list engaged? Are you able to get on podcasts? If you want to be a New York Times bestseller, you're going to pay for that. You're going to pay $50, $60, $70,000 probably to be a New York Times bestseller. I've heard $100,000 to be a New York Times bestseller. You're going to pay for it either in how you buy your books, who you partner with, or promotion, right? One way or another. If you want to just do an Amazon bestseller launch, that's maybe 2,500. So you can see there's a huge range there, and it's not necessarily the money. It's what are you starting with? Do you have any kind of social media? Do you have an email list? Do you have people in your community that would come out and buy from you if you did a local book signing, right? So you got to start with what do you already have and build from that.
Yeah, so it might make sense for people to think about that and maybe pull some of that together before they approached a publisher. Would you agree?
Maybe, but I take people through all of that. So, I will ask them all of these questions and we'll talk about it. I had a client who came to me and said, I don't want to do an email list. I'm going to publish my book. I'm going to share it locally. I have a great accounting firm locally. This is what I want to do. And then we got the book almost to publish, and she's like, I think I could reach a lot more people here. What's the next step? What should I do if I want to go to the next step? So, we change and we evolve as people as well, and we step into whatever our next path is out there in the world, and so things change. And so again, there's no right or wrong answer. And it may be that you're thinking, I'm going to email my list and be done and then give out the book. But then you're like, whoa, this has actually turned into a much better book than I thought. I can actually help people with this book. And then we look at the next step.
well, if someone has a book coming out, when's the best time to market it and get on podcasts? Before it launches or once it's launched?
That has changed so much. And one of the things that is so fun about publishing is it changes. And I don't think actually there's a right answer. So traditional publishers will start promoting 9 months before because distributors and big podcasters need that much, and reviewers, professional reviewers need that much time. But that doesn't mean it actually helps book sales. I have worked with big traditional publishers helping their authors market and so forth. And I've not seen a difference necessarily in book sales. So you may choose to pre-sell your book and get advanced reviews and those kinds of things. And it makes the lead time much longer. It doesn't actually really help book sales. Most people, when they press that buy button, they expect to be able to read the book on Kindle or the book's coming next day on Amazon Prime. That's kind of how it is these days. And so I find starting to work with podcasters and reviewers 6 weeks before a book is going to get published gives you time to set up podcasting and things ahead of time, gives you time. And then you just got to be on it and promote it. And I say, you got to give it a good year. So the first initial bump is going to be about 3 weeks, and then take a breath, and then you got to circle back around and keep promoting, but in a way that's fun and authentic to you. I'm not telling anyone to go on TikTok if they don't want to.
Because what I think people don't realize is it doesn't matter if you're rolling out a new product or a new service or a book, it all has to be marketed, right? And so I think one of the myths are you just create something, you create one YouTube video and boom, you have clients knocking down your door, or, you publish this book and, people are knocking down your door, or you open your storefront and there's a line waiting to get in. And that's just not how business works. And so do you feel like for business owners, they need to have the strategy for marketing their book built into their overall marketing strategy for that year? Because again, of course, they're still marketing whatever they're selling to make money, right?
Of course, and that might change. Right? So the thing is we're not really in a static world anymore. Like we all grew up, the three of us, I think, in a time where you set your goals and you put your 5-year goals out and you backtracked and said, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And the real world isn't really like that anymore. Right. So yes, I like to do a year-long strategy. I like to say, get on 50 podcasts or 20 podcasts or whatever's going to work for you, or go on a blog tour. Not everyone wants to do podcasts, or work on 10 book signings or whatever it is. And life changes. And so you also have to be creative and pivot and be resilient and find other things that do work for you. So just because I'm telling you today, don't get on TikTok if it doesn't feel good, doesn't mean I'm going to say that in 3 months from now. And the other thing is, we want to see what's working for you. And if you've never done it, we don't know what's working yet.
Right. Nice. I loved how you said you think it's fun that things are changing. That's such a great attitude, because most people are like, no, don't let it change. I want to do the same thing.
Yeah, it keeps life interesting, right? But, I've never really been on LinkedIn, even though I keep them like, I got to get on LinkedIn. Finally, I'm starting to get on LinkedIn, and it's like, okay, this is fun. I'm starting to learn it. I'm starting to find my way around and connect with some new people. And oh my gosh, look at all these people that I already know on LinkedIn, right? So we have to be ready. We have to be open. We have to be willing to push ourselves to the next step. The timing has to be right. And you have to allow yourself to give your book the real justice it deserves and really give it a go. And most people just give up too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. Now, when people are deciding on how they're going to publish, how do you help them with their expectations and what the reality is?
I have helped people become best-selling Amazon authors with as little as 20 books sold, right? It is not the, oh my gosh, I'm going to sell 1,000 books. I'm going to sell 10,000 books. You may not. And so it is really fun to be able to say you're best-selling Amazon author. I mean, it's really cool. It's fun to say. It's good for your ego. It's good for your book. It's good for your website, although do not use the Amazon logo, please. They will come after you. But that does not necessarily mean you're going to sell lots of books. So we want to make sure we're clear about the point of the book. Is it to bring back clients? Because maybe those 20 books will bring you a client who's going to pay you $10,000 or $20,000, depending what you sell, right? Depending if you're doing high-end packages. But the other thing is the expectation that your book is just going to take off, or that you're going to reach out to 100 friends and family and get 100 reviews. It doesn't work like that. I wish it did. Amazon doesn't publish every review it's given. So if you have 20 people who said, well, I left a review on Amazon, maybe 15 of those will get through, maybe 10 of those will get through. And so we need a strategy that asks for 500 reviews, not 100 reviews. Or we need a strategy that asks for 50 reviews, not 10 reviews, right? Depending on how big your reach is. And so it's expectations, so you're not disappointed and you realize it's just the facts, it's just the way it works, and you're not taking it personally and you're like, oh, I didn't get any reviews, my book sucks. No, it just means that Amazon's algorithm didn't let that review go through. If you've been thinking about publishing your book, I want you to think about the right way to publish for you. So the first thing is, are you going to do ebook, paperback, audiobook? Yes, the answer is yes. You should do all of those. But then are you going to self-publish, work with a hybrid publisher, go after a traditional publisher? And you'll need to do a little inner reflection to decide which of those is right for you. And so ask yourself, do you like doing all the back end things? Are you a do-it-yourselfer, or you just want to hand it over to someone else? That's the first question to ask. You also have to be realistic with yourself. Are you going to be able to get a traditional publisher? And if and when you do, are you going to be happy with the 1%, 2%, or 3% royalty that they pay you? If you're thinking about publishing a book, you must ask some questions before you jump in with a publisher. First one is, what kind of editing is included? Is it developmental editing? Is it proofreading? Or one of the many types in between? There's so many ways to edit a book, and I want to make sure that you get a well-edited, beautiful book out there. The next question to ask is, are you going to have any input on the cover or not? And here's what's to know. You want to be able to give input, to be really proud of the book, to love the cover so that you are comfortable promoting it. And a professional publisher is going to have some input about what is actually selling. As a publisher, I love pulling back the curtain with my authors, because we think once a book is published, that's it. That's all we have to do. But in reality, you want to work with your publisher or with yourself, your business, your team, to actually continue to market the book. I have a book that we published about 8 years ago that's still doing really well. And a couple of times a year, we pull the book out and do a relaunch. You do not have to shove your book under the carpet if you think it's too old. Just bring it back out. So make sure that your expectations are, you'll need to continue to market the book, probably on your own and with your publisher. And then also find out from your publisher what marketing is included, what isn't included, what you're expected to do. Make sure you ask lots of questions so you go in with your eyes open.
We didn't ask you this, and I was going to, but how has AI affected like publishing in general?
Well, I don't think we know yet. What happened was a bunch of people used AI to publish their books, and now Amazon's taking them all down.
Mm-hmm.
And the Copyright Office is not allowing you to copyright anything if you've used AI in your book. So I don't think we know yet what the long-term effects are going to be, but everybody jumped in and now they're having to backtrack and scramble.
Mm-hmm.
AI does not take the place of your heart and your thought leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good tool maybe for some bullet points or to give you some ideas about writing, but then I'm sorry to say, you got to get in there and do the work.
Absolutely. No, totally on board with that.
Well, this has been such a fantastic conversation. I feel like I have learned so much today.
Well, if you want to reach out to Michelle, you can go to her website, which is michellecoaches.com. So feel free to reach out to her so she can help you decide what you're going to do with your next book. So thank you so much, Michelle, for being here. You are a wealth of information. We are so grateful that you came on and helped us learn more about how to publish a book.
That was great to be here. Thank you both.
Thanks for listening to the Six Figure Business Mastery Podcast. If you enjoyed listening to this episode and you are ready to leverage video marketing on all online platforms, or maybe even start your own video podcast, then you need to check out the Done For You and Done With You program at themarketingvaadvantage.com and take your business to the next level.